Good morning. Whakatakata hou ki te uru, whakatakata hou ki te tonga, ki mā kina kina ki uta, ki mā tara tara ki tai. E he ake ana te atakura, hei tū, hei hoka, hei hauhu, ti hei Māori ora. Good morning and welcome everybody to our Regulation Hearing Committee meeting, the first one for 2026. Actually, the second one for the triennium. So, I'd like to welcome everybody here. Now, follow my lines. I haven't received any apologies. I do notice that Councillor Gerard isn't in the room yet, so... Okay, right.
Just arrived.
Councillor Gerard, if you'd just like to turn your camera switch on, which is at the very top of your laptop, we might actually get a picture of you, but that's fine. Can you hear us?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
We do have an odd picture, but we'll sort that when we see you.
I'll turn it off. There you go.
Right, yeah. Thank you very much. So we've got all the members in, so we've got no apologies. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with today's agenda? No, thank you. Public forums and deputations and petitions. There has been no requests. Yep. Takes us on to 5. That's extraordinary and urgent business. Is there any extraordinary and urgent business? We haven't had any brought to our attention. Number 6 is the notice of motions, and we've received none. That takes us to the... Sorry, Megan.
I didn't have my notes open. I might have a conflict that I may need to declare clear. Can I go back to that? Yes. For the conflicts?
Yes, if you wish to. Okay, yes.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So just on the Selwyn District Council stormwater, so that's application 167468. I am just not sure whether Taumitu Runanga has been involved in providing advice on that. And if Taumitu has been advised through Mahanui Kuratai, then it's very likely that my father, Les Wanhala, has been advising into that process. So I won't participate in that.
Yeah, I'm advised that is correct. So you would like that noted then?
And then the second one, so it turns out I've got more than one, Timaru District Council with the dam take, so 244314, just to advise that Cindy Robinson, she's currently the chair of the Timaru District Plan Review, of which I'm also a panel member. So they're the two that I just want to note.
We don't have legal in the room, but my sense... Oh, sorry, Robin. Would you like to just advise on that second one? I suspect that's perhaps a little bit distant, and it would be up to the councillor to make your decision there.
Yeah, I think that second one is more, you could declare the interest and perhaps still sit in, but that's obviously a decision for you, but I don't see a clear conflict with the second one, but definitely with the first, I'd advise you to sit back.
So we'll note the first one, and then you can let us know for that second one, or do you wish to
For the second one, I will just not participate in the decision, even though it's safe. It's not that controversial.
So you'd like them both
acknowledged?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Rightio, we'll do that. Thank you very much, Councillor Mackay. Right. We'll go back to where we were, which was the minutes. So that's page 10 of your agenda. Are there any matters of accuracy on those minutes before we move them? If there isn't, we have a recommendation up here. Could I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Faulkner and seconded by Councillor Robinson. Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Against? So that's carried. Thank you very much for that. Now that takes us on to our decision items for today. For the benefit of those online and for anybody watching this recording, at the table today we have Henry Winchester, our Consents Planning Manager, and alongside him Alison Cooper, who's our Consents Coordinator. And on 8.1, just get to there. This is obviously a decision where we're looking to appoint a hearing commissioner for the Selwyn District Council. We've noted Councillor Megan Mackay's declaration around this one. This is the recommendation here is for the Regulation Hearing Committee to appoint Graham Taylor as the hearing commissioner, and obviously delegate him his functions and roles under the Resource Management Act under Section 34A to do the job that we request of him. Now, staff have outlaid in the paper the background to the consent around the stormwater application. They've also outlaid in the paper Mr. Graham Taylor's experience and background and other consents that he's been involved in for us. Does anybody have any questions of clarity for staff? Councillor Faulkner.
Just on point 7, the application was publicly notified of 8 submissions, 6 submitters wishing to be heard. Just had a question around the assessment that the submitters made of outdated environmental assessments used. What actually does that mean?
Because the consent is so old, it was came in about 2016. So what happened was that the Selwyn District Council applied for every instead of applying for a global, which this is now going to be a global consent for their stormwater, they actually applied for each individual settlement. So then they've merged it into one consent. So some of the information is when we notified it from last year, or there's about 5 years difference. So what happened? They were using data that was pre sort of 2016, if you like, and so that's why some of the submitters picked up that some of the information was outdated.
Okay, is there any further questions of clarification with regard to that recommendation? If there isn't, we will put that recommendation here, which is up on the board. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Davis. And Councillor Robinson's going to second that. Does anybody have any points they wish to raise before we vote on this discussion? Probably don't think there's any need for that. So if not, we will put this to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much. That takes us on to 8.2. We're looking here to appoint a commissioner for an application by Timaru District Council. This is renewing a drinking water consent from memory. Yes, to dam and take water from the Pariora River for the community supply. This is effectively a renewal. Was publicly notified. The dam and everything, infrastructure is actually all in place as I understand it. Staff have laid out the background here for us, and also the reasoning for suggesting or recommending that Cindy Robinson be the hearing commissioner and delegated the responsibilities. And I'm assuming, given this is closed on the 26th, that there are some submitters who wish to be heard, so we will be proceeding with this. Staff have laid out the background of Cindy Robinson here in points 15 to 18. Does anybody have any points of clarity they wish to ask staff of? Councillor Faulkner?
Just another question in the background 3. So we've got a rate not exceeding 215 litres and a minimum flow of 30 litres. Can I just, from a hydrological point of view, it seems a bit odd, and there were no submitters, so obviously it's not a major issue, but I just want to sort of get my head around it.
There was some submitters. That's just closed on the 26th, but at the time of the writing of the paper, it was still in process. So,
yeah, I can just clarify. So we've had 3 submitters, and they all wish to be heard, and they all support the proposal.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Faulkner?
Yes and no, but if there's nobody submitting against it, I'm comfortable.
Councillor Davis?
I mean, this is more just for clarification. In the notes, it didn't say how tall this dam was or any of that sort of, which we don't need that detail. But talking to Sarah Gerard, we both sort of said, what happens if it breaks? What does that come into it?
I'm not that specific. I don't know the specifics for the actual application nor of the dam and stuff, but we obviously have the BCA function here at Environment Canterbury, which will be looking at those particular aspects. This is an existing consent that's being renewed. So those things would have been taken into account. There's obviously a compliance component as well. And
Thank you for that. And as somebody who's in a previous regional council tour, we have visited the site, and it's yay high from the floor. Thank you. Right, if there are no further questions of clarity around this one, we've got a recommendation here, and we have noted also that Councillor Megan Mackay's sat back. So would somebody like to move and second this recommendation? Councillor Faulkner's going to move it. A second. Councillor Moody's going to second that. Thank you. Any further discussion? If there isn't, we'll put this to the vote. All in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. That takes us on to 8.3, and I must apologise, I didn't follow my instructions here, that we do have a supplementary paper that has been tabled, and I should have brought that up right at the start. I didn't get told off for that, but I have been now. So regarding 8.3, this is fast-track delegations for panel nominations and process update. This is paper from the staff. Now, this is in requesting this committee to endorse the recommendations to take this paper up to the council for a full council decision. So I think it's important just to remember what we are doing here, or what we're seeking to do here. I am going to hand over to staff to give the background. It is quite a fulsome paper. The council briefing paper has actually been included here for your information, and it's not the intention to go through that today, although with some questions it may be used. Also, the panel conveners paper is there for your background information. So I have already indicated to staff that I know of at least one question, so we'll come to that, but I'd like to hand over. Henry, are you leading this, or are we having Anna? Is Anna going to come to the table? I'm getting nods here.
yeah, through you, Chair, if we can invite Anna Stewart up to the
Yes,
table, and she'll help lead this discussion.
Rightio, so we've got Anna Stewart here as the team leader of consents planning coming to the table. And we've also got David Sluter in the room. Do you want to come to the table too, David? He's our senior consents planner and project manager officer. They're going to sit alongside our consents manager here. So I'm going to hand over to you to go through the important points of the paper, and there are quite a few of significance here, so bear with us. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just going to very quickly introduce, and then I'm going to throw to Anna. So first of all, we're going to take this paper as read. Obviously, at the moment, the delegation sits with council and has been delegated down to this committee to appoint the panel members. As you'll all be aware, the timeliness of the EPA requesting for the panel members is a really short turnaround, which puts a huge amount of pressure on us as staff to get panel nominations through to the convener. What we'd like to do today is just run through some of the concerns that we have and raise them through this committee and some potential options and solutions. So I'll pass to Anna to run through the high level.
Good morning, kia ora everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm the team leader for the significant consents team, so my team look after all of the fast track applications within ECAN. We work closely with the other sections that we have, and also all of the other district councils and local iwi that are impacted by these fast track consents. We've built a really good process. We've been fortunate to have a really well-resourced team, which has helped us really lean into this new legislation. But what we have found quite challenging is the timeframes, obviously, with fast track. While we often are intended to get 5 working days notice of an impending nomination request, often with the timing of the committee and being able to engage with these authorities and Runanga, it's quite challenging to find the name and confirm that they're available, get everybody on board, and then be able to put it forth to this committee in line with the schedules. So that's probably one of our main impacts in terms of time, particularly with staff resourcing being fairly tight. We're currently working through about 18 different applications in various stages of the process, which so far is going really well. I think we've had 7 nomination requests, including the one that we're bringing this morning. But we are expecting quite a number more, and we're concerned that if we don't have ample time to really engage well with all of the affected parties, that it may impact our ability to put forth a nomination. We're very conscious that we want to have the right people chairing and deciding these. Obviously, if we haven't been able to align with the other territory authorities, we may not be able to put a name forth that we agree on, or we may not be able to find a suitable person, and that's also a concern. So what we're seeking is to change that more for really just to shorten that time frame so that we can spend more time working on getting the right person and less time getting them approved through the process, which is why we've brought this paper this morning. One of the risks, like I mentioned, was the limited number of people, and we're finding too that the list we had previously sought pre-approval for was mainly planners or commissioners, but what we're finding is we're being asked for more of a landscape or ecologist, or as recently with the NZTA Woodend bypass, an ecologist with Ngā Tahu Whakapapa, which is quite challenging. And so we do really want to not make it any more difficult for iwi to also be able to engage with us as well. And lately we've almost had like a day turnaround time to get a response from them so that we can then come and see if we can have a person confirmed. So it will certainly strengthen our relationship with them if we're able to spend a bit more time working through these names together to get the right person on board, which is, why we're here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think just for the benefit of new councillors, this fast track system has been quite a challenge for the organisation since it was brought in, and I know that several of the early ones that came to us, there was quite a bit of discussion, particularly about members. So it's quite it's a totally different process that stands outside the traditional RMA process for us to actually get our heads around. And the risks around if we don't meet the time frame, and we can't get some name that perhaps we desire to actually have go forward to be selected for the panel is significant. I just would like to add on to the conversation that what we are doing in this process is, or our organisation is doing, is actually recommending a nominee to the panel convener, and it's the panel convener that actually then selects the panel that will ultimately hear the application and then make the final decision. So the name that we put forward is basically it's like 3 steps, or at least 2 good steps from the decision or the outcome process on a significant project. So it isn't, while it's important to us that we go through the opportunity to provide a name, and we do a lot of work in the background around the application, getting information and understanding and working with runanga, etc. I think it is just very important to keep what this recommendation of a name means to us in a significance aspect. So, yeah, just keep that in the back of your mind as you're thinking about this recommendation going forward, particularly with, I know, the question that I'm now going to hand over to Councillor Moody to ask of staff. So, Councillor, would you like to ask your question of clarity from staff on this?
Thanks, Claire. And thanks for the overview, Anna. Yeah, and I understand the time challenges that we're all under from this new fast track process. Look, I'm generally comfortable with the idea of it being our nominee being chosen by our staff rather than by the council. You know, in this because we have such limited time. So yeah, I support the intention. Currently in the paper, it's proposed that these nominations could be approved, signed off by the CE or the director operations, or at the general manager or at the section manager level, probably to ensure you've got as many backup people as possible who can sign it off in that capacity. And as these are, by definition, some of our most significant applications, nationally significant, regionally significant, they have to be to qualify for fast track. It's a $2 million process. I'd like to see that nomination being made by our very most senior staff.
Can you make it a question, please, rather than a statement?
Yes. So, but I would like to outline the rationale for the question. That would be fitting, matching other delegations that we currently have, like at the moment consent hearings or planning hearings the nominees decided by council, prosecutions by the CE. And so my question is, let's have it at the CE level as well. TAP CN director, is there a reason why we can't do that to keep it at the highest level possible for these most significant decisions?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Moody. So the reason why we've gone for those 4 levels, I suppose, is you kind of alluded to it in your question. We want to allow ourselves to have enough coverage when we do get that very quick turnaround from the convener, if that's what the committee would like to see in terms of keeping it the CE or the director, then when we go through the formal process, then that's something that we can be considered. Like I said, the four names are, well, the 4 roles, to try and ensure that we've got enough coverage.
Okay, Councillor Davis.
Just to understand the process. So you kind of know, you've got a list, what's sort of coming. Are you guys thinking, okay, they could require an ecologist with an Otahu background on this one, or is it just on the day that...
It can really depend on the panel convener. So we know the key issues of an application, but we won't always know what her gap is in terms of coverage. She has confirmed that planners are usually the first ones that she can connect with because she's got more connections with those. So it is the more specialised skill sets like civil engineers that she'll potentially be looking for, but we won't know until she asks us within those sort of 5 days before the meeting.
Councillor Megan Mackay, Councillor Faulkner, and then Councillor Moody.
Kia ora. So first of all, I want to say I haven't declared a conflict of interest on this paper because although I was on the list approved by ECAN in the last council, once once I came into council, my name was taken off the list. So great. So for that reason, however, it does give me insight into how fast it ran to get even to talk through the process from when I've got a phone call to say, hey, are you interested? And in fact, like procedurally, there was a half an hour phone call with me to say in the end, no, So I just thought it might be helpful to maybe talk through, explain a little bit more about the administrative burden and the timeframes and to really achieve that outcome, to get someone appointed within that 5-day period. And then the second question to that would be also really spell out what is the risk difference between the CE only making a decision or, as has been recommended in this paper, other delegations. So those two, please.
Yeah, some good questions there. Perhaps, and I probably should have said it in my outset, we actually are coming back to full council in a couple of weeks' time to do a presentation on Fast Track. For those of you here last Tronium, it's pretty much the same one in terms of our role, our processes and all that sort of stuff. So we wanted to do that before today. However, with timings, with everything, it hasn't kind of worked out. But we will be coming back, so that'll happen in the next couple of weeks. But I'll throw to you, Anna, to...
Yeah, procedurally it is a challenge. It's largely David and myself, along with the principal planner who's working on the application, who does sort of the prep work or the admin behind the scenes to get this nomination put forth. I can probably hand to David, who's done most of the admin for this, for example, for today and for our recent requests, but we're probably looking at anything from 10 to sort of 30 hours worth of work and conversations that will lead up to this part of the process. Obviously, as you say, we do try and keep in the back of our minds where things might be heading. We have a very good relationship with the panel convener, Jane Borthwick, and so she will endeavour to come to us early as she can once she knows in her mind who the person she might be seeking from us is. In this case for NZTA, for example, this week we were able to get 10 days. That's still proven to be quite tight in terms of actually being able to have those discussions with the tertiary authorities and iwi, and also to have those where it gets perhaps a bit more complicated around the skill sets. Again, there's often a lot more discussion that's needed. So we have still found it really tight with 10. So had it been 5, I think in this case we would have been really pushed. There were instances before the Regulatory Hearings Committee was stood up earlier in the year where we had to sort of step back and trust that Mackenzie District Council were going to put forth a person. So we still had the conversations with them, but we didn't actually officially endorse the nomination because we weren't able to put it to the committee at that time. So there had been a potential risk there that if they hadn't also found a name that we were comfortable with, that may have had a different outcome in terms of who would have been put on those panels. That was for the solar farms in the Mackenzie Basin, which again we have a lot of interest in, and we really want to have a robust panel across those. But David, I might just get you to perhaps talk to some of the admin preparation if you wanted to around timing for this conversation, if there was anything else you wanted to add.
Thank you. I think you've sort of covered that off pretty well, really, with the process and what happens. I guess, again, it just sort of reiterates, like, we know sort of what the application is, so what sort of the likely skill sets are needed, and we sort of, I guess, we highlight that to the convener. But I guess coming back to that first question, like, we might have 2 or 3 skill sets in mind, but then if the convener's actually found 2 of them and it's only the 3rd one, then we can't sort of preempt that. We still actually need to wait for that direction. I think the main thing is really, although we have that sort of in mind, we still then need to talk to our partners, which would be the local TA, the relevant TA, and sort of the local. We usually go through the pre's themselves. That would be sort of like Anna said, myself and the consent planners working just basically, like you said, just on the phone, really, because there isn't always time to email or sort of wait for people. You sort of have to try and get hold of them straight away. And like I said, thankfully, we've got those great relationships, so we are able to pick up the phone and make that call. There's a real concern that, sometimes it's days we have to make that, to sort of go through that process. And then, so to try and get here at the same time, just, like we said, it just isn't really achievable in the timeframes, really. Sort of, like I said, they're sort of on the phone while I'm trying to write this paper to sort of make this happen. Really, it's been quite tight and quite challenging. Yeah.
Okay, we've got Coach.
The risk question, but before the risk question, you talked about having to go out and talk to a number of entities. But then you've got to ring all of the names of the commissioners that might fit the bill and have those conversations to talk through timing and availability, and that could be a long amount of process as well. But wanted to also just understand that the risk between the delegations, if there is a risk, and if so, how we actually respond to that.
Yeah.
Okay, Paul, would you like to just make a comment there?
Kia ora. Yes, thanks, guys. So, yeah, the risk is that if we fail to meet the timeframes, then it's likely that our nomination will not be accepted and we'll proceed without ECAN's nomination being part of that panel. So that's the risk that we're trying to mitigate. The decision for this committee to endorse that is really essentially passing that delegation to the CE to ensure that timeframes can be met. And that's really at the heart of this, is that the fast track process is so quick that our ability to respond to it is difficult because of the needs to be in to get endorsement by this council. So we're trying to manage that risk of the process proceeding without our nomination. I also think it's worth saying that the delegation has to sit with the CE. That's the normal process, and then CE will make a decision whether they want to sub-delegate or not. The reason we want to be clear about the sub-delegations going from director, general manager and section manager is that point as well, that the risk still remains if the delegation sits with the CE in terms of timeframes. As you can appreciate, the CE is very, very important and busy individual within this organisation. So that flexibility with others having that delegation means that risk is mitigated.
Thank you, but thank you. That's half the answer, because maybe my question wasn't framed right, but I get that risk. But I'm assuming, and that the CE, even if it was just to the CE and not further down the hierarchy, would be acting on the advice of the staff in any event. So I can't see, by limiting it to the CE, that we're actually changing any of the risk profile.
That's entirely correct. The advice would come from staff, and it goes up the organisation for the CE to sign off. So highly reliant on the advice of staff, the technical staff that are assessing the nominations, the applications, so on and so forth. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I just want to, before we carry on and get more questions, draw councillors' attention to what's actually in the recommendation. And it is quite specific that the recommendation is the Approvals Act. We're delegating the authority to the Chief Executive to nominate the persons. So that's actually what the recommendation is. So it is quite clear there. I don't want to stifle this conversation, but Councillor, I'm just aware of time. Can I go to Councillor Faulkner first? I have got you, yeah. Councillor Faulkner, if we can just be precise with our questions, clarity.
It'll be very brief because I think it relates to the risk, and it's the guardrails about the lower delegation party. I'm essentially comfortable with the whole recommendation. So it's those guardrails that are there. There is no risk to the organisation, is there?
No, I don't believe so, because again, it's the panel convener who will decide, and I know that she's also very mindful of having the right skill set across these as well. Hypothetically, if we were to put forth a name that didn't perhaps meet the threshold, then I think she would be looking to either go with a different nomination or have another name in mind.
Okay.
And potentially just one other thing I think it's important to add is we'll also be coming back through RHC, through our dashboard, etc., reporting on these are the names that we have been punting up, so there will be that check and balance as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Moody, quick question of clarity. Are you right, or you're going to pass the buck? Okay, Councillor Robinson.
I agree with what Megan was saying, and also partly understand some of the comments of what Councillor Moody was saying before. But ultimately, it's like any profession where there's someone who signs off or ultimately has oversight of operations. I think it always falls back on that person anyway, ultimately. So I don't really have a problem too much, but I do also want to just make some clarity of whether we still have the ability to substitute a panel member in something that we feel is a little bit difficult, or to substitute a panel member for a legal person or a lawyer, because there is the ability under different processes to do so. And would that be still put forward as a potential if?
No, I think there are some panels where there are lawyers that the panel convener will nominate a lawyer as background. For example, Phil Moore is on a panel at the moment, so she will have in mind where that's relevant, they will put forth. And some panels even they bring an additional cultural person or an additional lawyer if they feel like that's required.
And for clarity, as a part of the panel as opposed to an expert witness, so that's I just wanted to clarify that for some of the new people, that is an option as well. So yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I can just add to that. A lot of the, well, I guess you'd say those really sort of big, significant projects, they often have a lawyer as the chair of those panels. I said that's the panel convener deliberately put someone in that position. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Moody, a quick question of clarity.
Yeah, so to clarify, because I'm not sure the councillors are quite understood here. So there's quite a difference in the two proposals. If a delegation sits with a CE or CN director, am I right in thinking it comes to their desk, they provide a final review and they sign it? Whereas if a delegation sits at a different level, the CE or CN director may not even be aware of the decision. It's fully delegated. They don't need to think about it. They're not involved in the process, which is quite different to, very different people looking at over different roles. Is that correct?
I'm quite sure that the staff above know, so you can hand over to.
In order for the CE to be satisfied, so say for example the council make the decision to delegate to the CE. The CE will go through, a process to ensure that if that delegation is sub-delegated to the director, the general manager, and the section manager, there's a process there that ensures that work, that rigour, that risk management will be covered through that. So that's an internal operational process that the CE would oversee to ensure that when sub-delegating, they're satisfied that the risk is being appropriately managed.
Okay, I think if there are no more questions of clarity, just in the interest of time as well, we've got the recommendation up here on the board. I'm not going to read it out. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Got hands made up quick there. Councillor Megan Mackay and Councillor Faulkner are going to second that. Now, we've had quite a few questions of clarity here. Is there anybody who wishes to now have any discussion around this? I think in the interest of time, and we've got another fast track recommendation coming up, if there isn't, and this is going to full council, so there will be further opportunities. I think if there is nobody that's desperate to speak, we'll put this to the vote. So all those say aye. Sorry, those agree, say aye. Any against? Aye. Councillor Moody, you'd like it recorded? Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. So that is carried. So that takes us on to 8.4. Now this is the supplementary paper, folks, that you will have in front of you. And I'll just get my page. Now we have a resolution here to accept these papers. So we're looking for approval to support the following papers to this committee today, being the fast track panel nominations to the NZTA Woodend Bypass and the consenting and compliance activity report. The reasons are outlined here in purpose number 2, and that is that they weren't included in the main agenda as they were not available at the time that the agenda was prepared. Recommendations up on the board. Do I have a mover and a seconder for this recommendation? Councillor Megan Mackay, Councillor Davis. All those in favour say aye. Against? So that's carried. Thank you. So that takes us to 8.5. So this is the fast track panel nominations for the NZTA Wood End Bypass project there. Once again, we're looking to approve a couple of nominees from the council. A recommendation here is that we approve Greg Burrell and Roger Young. There has been conversations around the clarity that's been given in the previous paper around the reasonings why we might have picked these. Staff have laid that background out around the experience and the expertise of both of these individuals in the paper. Does anybody have any questions of clarity regarding this paper, this agenda item 8.5 of staff? I think it's quite straightforward. If there is no question, Councillor Moody.
When you were talking about this one earlier, was this the one you said that they requested a person with Ngāi Tahu whakapapa and freshwater ecology experience?
Yes, this was, and this was particularly challenging to try and find someone that satisfied both of those criteria. We had conversations with Ngāi Tahu yesterday to really sort of finalise the names that we were putting forth, because there wasn't someone that was principally strong in ecology that could also meet that iwi requirement. But we have, in our comments, included another name that, should the panel convener wish to have someone with cultural expertise in addition to the ecologist on the panel, that there was another name that she could put forth as well. Was that name, David? Was that Roger, I think? Roger, yeah, as an additional name, but it's not an official nomination, because in our discussions we weren't able to find someone that could satisfy all of those. And principally, they are also really concerned about the ecological impacts of this application. So that was one of the main aspects that we wanted to have a really robust expert across. Yes.
Okay. And we do notice this is a paper with an example around the time conflicts here. You know, we staff at 0.5 have got that the nominees will be still subject to staff completing their work. So this is the issue that staff have when they're bringing these very quick turnaround things. Councillor Megan Mackay.
I just have a question. Like, it's really good that we're going out and engaging with iwi and getting iwi perspective. Do they get to put forward their own direct?
No. No, they don't. No, they're not asked specifically. No, which is why we really have a lot of conversations with them. No, under the fast track legislation, they're not invited to provide a nomination.
I think, though, am I correct that the panel convener does look for somebody with Te Ao Māori lens, though?
Definitely, yeah.
So they may finish up by going there, but there isn't that automatic position.
So am I hearing not?
Microphone. Sorry, you've just.
Not legally, but the convener will be having those conversations because they're trying to actually fill a skill set. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I can confirm. So, legally in the Act, it's only the local authorities that get a nomination. There isn't one for local iwi. But then, the chair's correct. The Act just states that the panel must include someone with, it's just Te Ao Māori development experience. Like, it's sort of quite, I think the Act's almost sort of quite vague in that sense, but it doesn't actually say required that the iwi actually get a nomination.
Okay, are there any further questions of clarity before we move this recommendation? Councillor Faulkner? Oh, sorry, you're moving it. You're moving it. Sorry, I thought you were going to ask a question. And Councillor Davis, you'll second it. Thank you. Apologies. All those in favour say aye. Against? So that's carried. Thank you very much. That takes us on to 8.6, which is our consenting and compliance activity report. Just before I hand over, are you going to do this, Paul? No, or Henry's. I'm not. Jennifer, you could like to come to the table. So we've got Jennifer Rochford, Manager of Compliance, coming to introduce this report. Henry Winchester, Consents Planning Manager, still sitting at the table, and we're going to have Paul Holst, General Manager of Regulatory Implementation, introducing it. For councillors, I'd just like to note that the iterations that were mentioned to staff are still work in progress, as I understand. So this dashboard will change over time, as we've already had a bit of a discussion with staff. And I'm going to hand over to Paul.
Through the chair, yes, this is our operational dashboard report consisting of measures and metrics for consenting and compliance. That's absolutely correct. I think you had a very good discussion last time, just before Christmas, around some of the proposed improvements. We're working really heavily on that, and the idea being that we can automate that data. So the point being is that that if we do make the changes to the measures, it's stuff that we can actually do within the system and generate reasonably quickly. So that was the purpose of the dashboard report, that it could be automated. So this might be the last time it looks like that. It'll probably change in the next iteration or the next sequence. So I'll hand over to Henry and Jay.
I've just got a few comments to read out, and we'll then go from there. So thanks, councillors. I'll just give you a quick overview of where we sit in the consent space. Currently, we have around 552 applications in process. That number has been steadily declining over the last couple of months. We're continue to see strong throughput, though, with our ratio of applications around about 140 at the moment, which means we're getting through more work than what is coming in. Looking at the past 30 days, we have processed 122 applications and we've only received 87. So on hand, our numbers are going down, and that's mainly due to the reason of the reforms and some uncertainty out there currently. This is contributing to our overall performance, which means we're getting through that lots of work, like I touched on. However, what we have also been doing is talking to a number of the consultancies and trying to understand where they're placed. Our understanding is that their work is picking up and they're starting to get quite busy again, so that potentially will start to flow on to us in the not too distant future. When that is, I don't know, but we'll continue to work with them externally. In terms of our timeframes for our financial year, as you'll note there, we're around 81%. That number continues to be heavily impacted by our uncontrollable consents that are still going through those processes, mainly resulting in court processes and the EPA and things like that. Most of those hearings and stuff are still scheduled over the next 2 to 3 months, and we're hoping that pressure will start to ease soon. But I did really want to highlight the compliance to date for the last year, which is 91.3%. That's all of our work for 2025 consents lodged. And also we look to the future, all the work that we've currently processed this side of the year, so 2026, is at 98.7. So what it's showing is that we're continuing to head in the right direction, which I think is really positive. So overall, our key messages: applications are trending down. We kind of thought that would happen through the reform process. But we're working really hard with our legacy consents and trying to get those last few ones moved through the process. And I think we're moving in the right direction.
Okay, I've one leading question. I'm just a bit conscious of time too, so I don't want to take it up from fellow councillors, meeting members. Just with regards to the table on page 14, which is the applications received, and obviously we've had a big drop off in December, January and February. Following the change of legislation around the extensions, do the consents still have to come into the building and be treated as a received application to get that continuation to 2027?
No, so they will automatically extend it out till the end of 2027, and then what will be happening post then is they'll potentially get kicked out to 2031 as well.
So they're not counted on here. So, right, is there any questions of clarity around the dashboard that staff you would like to ask the staff? Councillor Faulkner? Councillor Moody?
Just one, thank you. one of the informations that I concerns me is the number of applications that are withdrawn, returned, or not required. Why are people not doing it properly, or is there pre-application not picking up that this is going to happen?
Yeah, so there's a few examples there. So that might be where section applications returned under Section 88, so they haven't met our threshold. Now, they may not have consulted with us before they've applied. There's also many instances of, and the dairy conversions conversation is probably one that's relevant here. A lot of people will find they'll go through the process, get to a point, and we might need to notify this, and they'll withdraw those applications. We're in constant communication with both applicant, and I'd say that really importantly, as well as the consultant, to ensure that they understand where those are. So we are working through that, but yeah, there's many applications, not a huge amount, but some that do pull out or withdraw or not meet our threshold.
Okay. Is there any other? Moody, Councillor Moody.
Thank you. Not too moody on this one. Feeling quite positive, actually. So can you provide a little expansion on the compliance measures current financial year to date, or am I getting ahead of us? I've got a question on that one. Is that okay to ask it now?
Yes.
Yep. So it's good to see that. Well, it's interesting to note that last financial year there was about 35 significantly non-compliant consent types, and already this far through the current financial year, it's approximately double that, 70 odd. Can you provide some commentary on what's changed? I'm curious what's happening out there. Yeah. That's 18 and 19.
Oh, 16 and 17, I think, of ours. Is it?
Yeah, 18 and 19.
Sorry.
The last 2 pages.
Oh, okay, rightio.
Yeah, this is a change to previous year. This is just a very heavy focus on water monitoring at the moment. You'll also see it in the previous pages around how much monitoring we're doing for each activity. There's a very large focus on water, where in the previous year there was much more focus on discharges. So it's that time of year right now where we're doing a lot of water monitoring, and we have some standard processes for assessing that water data, and it is resulting in a lot of significant non-compliances. I think it's important to note that a lot of these are simply gaps in data that result in a significant non-compliance, and so we follow up with requests to please ensure the full data set is submitted, and so very likely a lot of these will be resolved. I just want to make sure that assumption isn't being made that this means that large quantities of water are being taken that are not authorized. A lot of these are data gaps, so poor data quality.
So this is taking water for irrigation, for example, like pumping it out of the ground or from a river, that sort of thing. Yep, thanks.
So I think just to add there that we have something like 5,700 water taken use consents. Most of that's telemetried into the building, so when they look at them, they can look at big quantities quite quickly. So just weighs it a little bit. Yeah, Jennifer.
Just one comment, because this links to the work that we're doing on improving our work on water use compliance, that the changes that we're making on improving the data systems, how the data is submitted, will improve the data quality. And so we're trying to proactively prevent this significant non-compliance from happening, from a better understanding for the consent holder on when they have data quality issues. And so that is the work that we're focusing on right now in the Smart and Enabling Regulator program.
Okay, Councillor Megan Mackay and then Councillor Robinson.
Time, so I'll be really quick, but my questions, I've got 2 questions on page 19 around the compliance. So 82 significant non-compliance consents, and if we drop down into the action plan, and there's 100% of these have action plans and 67% of those, or 76% are complete. My question is really, because I'm thinking ahead to the new RMA and how action plans will be used, and I just want to know, with these action plans, like, are they effective? Are they timely? Do they get the results that we need? And are they an effective tool to use? That's my first question.
Absolutely, they are our most effective tool in compliance. So the idea is there is a non-compliance. The consent holder needs to build a plan to resolve that non-compliance. That goes into an action plan that has clear timelines. We then hold it to account to those timelines. They are absolutely our key tool in compliance.
Wonderful, thank you. And then my other question is, in terms of the incident response, that 86% were not assigned in the 2 hours, and I just wanted to get a feel for why that might be the case.
Quite a few of those will be during our after-hours service. So not able to go out potentially because they should go out with someone else, and so trying to get 2 people to go out. There's also, if there's just too many officers already in the field and we're not able to get someone there quickly enough. But quite happy with this level of service currently. We just have to juggle, priorities.
Thank you. I'm just conscious I'm going to take that question from Councillor Robinson, but if there are other questions, I just wonder if staff might like to email, councillors might like to email them into staff, particularly around this. We have got one more agenda item to cover, and I know that there is another meeting. Councillor Robinson.
Yes, thanks. Apologies if you've sort of covered part of this before, but with regards to the compliance inspections, so you've got 1 year, 2,806 inspections, and so there's been a reduction of 750 inspections, and that is on page, 16 and 17. I'm just wondering why it's been reduced, because is it staff constraints, or is it risk-based compliance targeting, or has it moved to the adaptation, the adaptable?
I think what's being compared is the current is the financial year to date, where the previous one is for a full financial year.
Yeah. Okay. One's year to date, which is only 7-8 months in versus a 12-month period. So that'll explain that. Listen, look, I think if you've got any more questions, please don't hesitate to email them into staff, and they can answer those for you. I think it's important. And the report is going to come back regularly, and I noticed that it's scheduled for the 29th of April, which interestingly I'm going to be away from. But and obviously Alison's going to have some work for us that day. So look, we have the recommendation here. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Thank you. Councillor Robinson, seconder. Councillor Davis. I don't think we probably need any more discussion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Aye. So that's carried. Thank you very much. Now that takes us on to our last item, and that's back on your other agenda, which is 9.1. This is the items for information here on page 42 of your agenda. We have Alison coming back to the table. Thank you, Alison. This is to provide visibility here. Do councillors have any questions of staff with regard to this report? There was some green there because there's been quite a hiatus since our last meeting, and obviously applications have just had decisions on them. Is there any questions of clarity with regard to that report? If there isn't, I will ask for a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Megan Mackay, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Anybody desperate to have any discussion? No, if there isn't, we will put that to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Against? Aye. That's a yes, is it, Sarah? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. That's carried. Right, that takes us to our next meeting. We will be advised of the date of our next meeting, and I will leave the meeting open with regard to Karakia. There are meetings during the day with other councillors, and they will close that at the end of the day. So thank you everybody for attending today and your help in getting this committee through its processes.
Thank you.
All right.